Good morning and greetings to all of you attending Clash of Steel. My name is Matt Galas from California, but I live in Belgium. I'm a long-term HEMA instructor and a HEMA researcher. So the whole concept of the afterblow was pretty much unknown to the HEMA community until probably around 2006. So in that year what I did was I live in Belgium, so I went to a number of Belgian archives. And the reason I did that is because all across Belgium and France as well, there used to be fencing guilds in each of the major cities. And there are a lot of documents that survive from these fencing guilds. These fencing guilds start in Belgium in the late 1400s, actually earlier than the Marksbruder. The first one is from the 1450s. And they continued their business of fencing and teaching the traditional weapons up until the French Revolution, so that's until around 1791. And so what's interesting about these guilds is they typically had three weapons that they specialized in. One was the longsword, the other was a rapier, and the other was a rapier and dagger. And they viewed the longsword as the foundation weapon. Now, unfortunately, there are no technical materials that survive from these fencing guilds. There are no fencing manuals or lists of technique, which is unfortunate. But what does exist are reams and reams of documents that have to do with the administration of the schools. What their inventory of equipment is, just lists of members and how long they've been members, but most importantly, from our point of view, they also include the rules for their fencing tournaments. And so these fencing tournaments were an integral part of guild practice, and they did them many, many times throughout the year. So it was a very important thing. So they were primarily, they fought with all three weapons. So they fought with the longsword, the rapier, and the rapier and dagger. But in each of these rule sets, they had a particular rule that's fairly unusual from our point of view, and that is the rule of the afterblow. A lot of people think that the name afterblow is German, and they'll call it a Nachschlag, which is incorrect. Because Nachschlag just means a second blow. You have your Vorschlag, that's your initial blow, and then a Nachschlag, which is your follow-on blow. That's in the Derbringer manuscript, and that's something completely different. Doesn't have anything to do with this. The afterblow comes from a Dutch word, right? Because these fencing guilds were primarily focused in Belgium in the Dutch-speaking areas, the Flemish-speaking areas. You see this word, neerslag. And the word neerslag, neer at that point in time meant after, and slag means blow. Blow meaning, right? So a blow with the edge. So that was for the longsword. In rapier and dagger, they talked about the neerstich, which is the after thrust. So you have to after blow and after thrust. That's where this concept comes from. I found this in several rule sets from all these different fencing guilds across Belgium. Started to see this commonality of this, this word, the neerslag, the afterblow, or the after thrust. In the text of those rules, it's pretty clear what it means, and that is the tournament itself is not a level playing field. So it's a king of the hill system. So one person is the king, and he has an advantage. And if you're the challenger who wants to get rid of the king and become the king yourself, you have to hit him with what's called, a clean hit. To get a clean hit, you have to get in, you have to hit him with a cut or a thrust, and then you either have to evade or parry the afterblow, right? So you don't get an afterblow as a challenger. Only the king has an afterblow. So what that means is you have to be an extra good fencer to defeat the king. So the other thing that's interesting about it is historically, we talk about afterblow in terms of tempo these days, but that's not really the case. That's not how they conceived of it. In fact, they never even used the word tempo. There are three qualifiers for an afterblow to be valid in this rule set. It has to be immediate. that means you get hit and then you immediately need to initiate your blow. And second, you have a limited number of steps that you can take in delivering it. So most rules, it's a single step. So XEL hits me, and I'm going, shit, time to hit him back, time to initiate my afterblow. I initiate immediately after he hits me, and I take one step, and then I hit him, hopefully. And he tries to either evade or parry, just like we do now. The difference, though, is that they had a limited target area in that in the Franco-Belgian rule set, it was from the waist up and from the elbows up. So yeah, again, the afterblow had to be initiated immediately, done within the proper number of steps, and then it had to hit a valid target area, which is basically head, torso, and upper arms. You know, forearms, hands, and legs did not count. That is the foundation of the afterblow. And likewise, when they were doing the rapier dagger, they were using only the thrust. They took the head off target, so it was really only the torso from the waist up, and then the upper arms. And in that, it was the same thing. There was a king, there was a challenger. Only the king had the after thrust, so you would thrust at the king, hopefully hit him, and then try and escape without being hit by his after thrust. So what's interesting about the number of steps, though, is that it's not constant. Most rule sets, it's one step. There's at least one rule set that has 3 steps that you can take with the afterblow. So imagine, you know, if XEL and I are fighting, bang, I hit him on the head, and then he's got 3 whole steps. So obviously that's not a single tempo, right? At a minimum, that's 3 tempos for him to hit me. So it's a big difference there. And I know some people out there are experimenting with that now to see what that does in terms of your fencing. So that's Belgium. You know, I've done various things in HEMA. I've been around HEMA for a long time. Whatever my influence is, for better or worse, is out there. But one thing that I can say is that I'm the father of the afterblow, because I found it in the Belgian archives with assistance from Flemish friends. I translated it, and then with my good friend Scott Brown, you know, we were the ones who first put it in a tournament, used that, and then it spread to Swordfish, and from there, you know the rest. There are other places where there are traces of the afterblow. You see it certainly in the Italian rule sets. Manciolino is one example. Now his is a little different, because both fencers have the afterblow. It's not an uneven king of the hill playing system. You have more of an equal level playing field where both sides get the afterblow. And they used a weighted scoring system where the head was worth 3 points because it was the most important target. The foot, I don't mean the leg, I mean the actual foot, that was 2 points. And then everything else was 1 point. And so you would fight, and if you hit your opponent, he was allowed to take 1 step and then strike you. Now, they don't say how you manage the scoring, so there are different ways that could occur, right? It could be a negating afterblow, where it just simply negates the hit of the guy who hit first. It could be a partially negating afterblow, where you compare points, you know, the different points. So if I hit you on the head for 3 points and you hit me on the arm for 1, I just lose 1 point. Or it could be let's see, an additive or a cumulative system where, say I hit you on the arm, I'm the initial attacker, I get 1 point for your arm, and you hit me in the head for 3, that you actually exceed my score as the guy delivering the afterblow and actually make points. The fact is, we don't really know. And it's been tried different ways. I think the way most people are doing it, you know, is you simply look at the scores, and the guy with you take the differential between, you know, the scores, and the guy with the higher score takes what's left. So that is pretty much, yeah, that's Manciolino, but he's not the only one. There's several other sources that talk about this as well in Italy. And then finally, you've got traces of this in other places. For example, England, there are indications in a couple of 2-3 different sources that the afterglow was used there as well. So that's pretty much what I can tell you in a nutshell about the historical basis for that. And I hope you enjoy your event. Bye-bye.